If you're sitting in a chair all day, then your abdominals and deep spinal stabilizer muscles are probably shut off and weak. In this video, you're going to discover some unique exercises that you can do while you're at your desk that will keep these muscles active so that when you go to use them in the gym or everyday life, they're there for you, keeping your back healthy. Hey, what's up? Eric Wong here from Precision Movement, and welcome to another episode of The Active Office Worker. In this episode, we're going to talk about the thoracic and lumbar spine and how to keep these areas and the muscles that control these joints active and keep the joints healthy. When you're sitting at that desk all day, typically, if you've got a backrest, you're kind of slouched down, leaning against it a little bit, and supported by the backrest. What that does to the muscles of the spine is it shuts them off because now you have stability from the backrest and you don't need stability generated from the musculature of the spine and the abdominal wall. That's not a good thing because if these muscles atrophy, that can lead to low back pain. And of course, low back pain is something that affects so many people, 80% plus of people in the Western world, and it's only getting worse. What can we do about it? Well, here are a few exercises. If you're sitting at your desk all day, you can throw these in just to wake up these muscles. Now these videos, the series, the Active Office Worker series, they're not designed to be the be-all and end-all of seated office exercises. They're just little ideas that I'm sharing with you to get you to think about your body and taking care of your whole body, not just certain areas, but your whole body and how something like desk work can affect your body and what to do about it. So don't think of this as the ultimate office seated exercise workout program, but just some ideas that you can use and incorporate every day or every work day to keep you a little bit healthier. All right? So the first technique, we're going to get the anterior abdominal wall active, and this is just an anterior abdominal wall isometric. First up, you want to get into a nice tall neutral spinal alignment. And once you find that, tighten up the abdominals, squeeze the abs without actually changing your posture. So you're doing this, looks like nothing's happening, but I'm tight here, versus this. I don't want flexion to occur. So stay tall, get that iso. Now, once you're there, hands on your thighs or on your knees, and think about driving your torso forward, driving your hands into your knees, not with the shoulders, but with the abdominals. And once you get a good activation, that'll fire up the activation a little bit more. Hold it for 10 seconds. Keep a strong activation while you're maintaining a steady breathing rhythm. In other words, don't hold your breath. And when you're done, just gradually relax. And that's going to activate the anterior abdominal wall, like rectus abdominis, external obliques, and a little bit of internal obliques. So you can do anywhere from 1 to 6 repetitions, holding for about 10 seconds, and that'll get these guys fired up and awake. Next up, we're going to work the lateral musculature. So this is obliques, internal and external, and also quadratus lumborum and the latissimus, the lats. For this one, you'll want to slide over to the edge of your chair, hand on the side here. And same thing, we're going to start with just a general isometric contraction of all the torso musculature. Okay, so just bracing. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about side bending into my hand, but my hand is obviously blocking me, so I'm not moving. So I'm side bending, and then that's going to fire up the lateral musculature right over here. Same thing, hold 10 seconds while maintaining a natural breathing rhythm. Keep strong through the scapula, so it forces those muscles to fire up, and then you relax. You're going to get a little bit of lateral flexion here, and that's okay. Same thing, at least 1, up to 6 reps, holding for 10 seconds on both sides. You could switch up sides. You could do one side all at once. Doesn't really matter. Just do something and then move on. Next up, segmental spine flexion and extension. This is a really important concept. and movement to be able to get. So the spine, it's like every vertebrae, there's 33 vertebrae total, including the fused ones in your tailbone. Every vertebrae is a separate joint, and joints are designed to move. So if all we're doing is bracing all the time, then that's not training what the spine is actually designed for. If it was designed to be just a stiff rod, then that's what would have occurred. It would just be one bone. Okay, and the nerve could go right in the middle of that bone, and it would be perfectly safe. It would never get injured. Well, it might get injured if you had a fracture of the bone, but I digress. Okay, the spine's designed to move, and that's what I talk about in spine control. What we're going to train here is segmental flexion and extension. So sit up tall, start in a neutral position, and from there get into an extended position. So pushing the chest out, really opening up the chest towards the ceiling. From here, I'm going to go chin to chest, so cervical flexion, and then think of thoracic spine, which is this area, flexion, but I'm maintaining extension down at the lumbar area until I get all the way down through to here. And then come up one vertebrae at a time. So keep the chin in the chest, keep the thoracic spine rounded, and go extension here, and then here, and then here. It's really slow. Here, and all the way up. So you're stacking one joint on top of another, one at a time. And that's the segmental flexion and extension. The key for this is to go really, really slow and start off in a hyperextended position so you can feel those muscles on that are keeping you extended, and then keeping those muscles on down low as you flex over top of it. And then vice versa on the way up, keeping the muscles on that are flexing you, so the abdominals, chin to chest, the neck flexors here, as I'm firing up one by one the extensors up the spine. This one looks simple, but it takes a little bit of practice. It takes a lot of practice, actually. So if you don't get it right away, if you just feel like you're moving as one whole unit, that is perfectly normal, especially in today's society where we're not used to training this. Keep at it, and you will get better, I promise you. Okay, finally, very simple, pelvic tilts. This is best done on a wheelie chair, because then you can just roll the wheelie chair around. But we could do it on a stationary chair as well, as long as your butt slides. Sit up, nice and tall in good alignment, and then you might need to grab on something behind you if you're in a non-wheelie chair, but posterior pelvic tilts, anterior pelvic tilts. Coincides with lumbar flexion, lumbar extension. Trying to keep the thoracic and the cervical areas from moving. Keep them stationary. So with this, you can do like 5 reps of each, somewhere around there. And that'll keep the muscles that control the pelvis in the anterior and posterior directions. It'll keep those guys active, get some blood flow in through the hips as well, which is important because when you're sitting, well, nothing is moving. So it's important to get everything moving and active. Okay, so there you have 4 techniques to keep the spine healthier if you're working at a desk all day. If you like this, make sure you check out the rest of the videos in this series. And if you have any spine issues, I alluded to it earlier, but please check out my spine control course. This is a course that I recently launched in a couple months ago, I think, as at the time of posting this video, that takes you through the 2 major stages of training the spine for long-term health, movement, longevity. Phase 1 is stabilization. So this is kind of what is most popular in training the core nowadays, is core stability. Okay, keeping the core in neutral posture and building strength around that neutral posture. That's phase 1. But most people don't move past that. And the problem with that is that the tissues, the connective tissues of the spine, like the vertebrae or the intervertebral discs and the ligaments, those respond to movement and loading. And if they're not getting moved and if they're not being loaded, they're going to get weaker and degenerate. And that's going to cause shrinking of disc heights, easier disc herniations, weakened ligaments, so you get ligament sprains, a lot of bad things. So phase 2 is all about developing dynamic and training dynamic control of the spine to not only develop the muscles, but those connective tissues as well. So if you want to learn more about that course, click on the link at the end of this video. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Peace.